Thanks, Zoe. Commissioner Barden, ladies and gentlemen, elders. Let me just start by just acknowledging the traditional owners, and Uncle, thank you for that welcome. Also, I'd just like to acknowledge the elders that are here today, but also the elders past and present, those that can't be with us. For me, in my study, I think it's the first time I've spoken about my study in public since I've been freshly minted as a PhD. Now, I just want to acknowledge my families who actually committed to being part of the study. The elders who also committed to being part of the study. And I had 3 supervisors along the way. So my journey was a 10-year journey. So for someone to hang in there with me over 10 years whilst I was working and also studying was a tremendous effort on their behalf. So doctors Diane Hafner, Deb Walsh and Yvonne Darlington. And of course the more than capable crew at Camara who pretty much tolerated my probably mood swings as I was researching. Let's have a look. What makes for well-functioning families, well-functioning Aboriginal families in Brisbane? Now, forgive me up front, I've been really sick all day. I'm dosed up on all sorts of medication and feeling pretty good. So I'll try and maintain that flow as we go. Is this the clicker? Yeah? Thanks, mate. I didn't get any instructions. Thank you. All right, let's make a start.
There, man.
Woo. Righto, technology is going to work wonderful. Just about my research. It's interesting, I've written up there that, it started on the assumption that surely all of my culture can't be bad parents. That's true, but that's not how it started. All right, I'm going to be up front here. It started a day when I was having a meeting with a team leader around the traps, and I was questioning why they were placing one of our families on orders. And it blew me away when she said, because they're black. I'm thinking, there's no way that exists, and this was around 2009. I'm thinking, I was floored for a team leader to say that, and that sort of sparked me on this journey from then on. Surely there are some positives we can identify with our families. Surely there's something that highlights that we're actually doing okay. And then the journey began from there. So I spent some time focused on what I really want to explore here. So it's actually about, rather than doing a deficits approach, which I think exists quite readily, I was really interested in what are the strengths of our families, what are we doing well, and then how do we identify that as we're going along. I had to spend some time figuring out what I think well-functioning meant, and we'll talk about that in a second. But in 3 minutes or less, let's see if this works. I'll try and tell you how I went about it. So firstly, I looked at Aboriginal parenting by unearthing some historic documents. So it's a 3-stage process. One was a content analysis. I did research, I read stuff. And I read stuff that was really focused on observations of what people saw were enacted as parenting behaviours in the Aboriginal community. And my apologies for Torres Strait families, my focus was only on Aboriginal families in Brisbane. And I went back to documents that were like 1913, and I came forward to around 2000. That was probably the space of my data collection for that particular component. And it made for some interesting reading. I won't go through the details because the really important stuff's probably when I started talking about the families. Then I met with the elders. There's 2 parts of my study that I felt most honoured about. One was spending time with the elders, and we ran a focus group, and God love them, they took me through their recollections of when they were children, so when they could remember back as far as they could when they were 2 or 3, and described how they were parented and who was involved in their upbringing and child rearing. Then they brought me forward to when they became parents and actually how they enacted those behaviours. And then they told me again, okay, what it meant for them when they became grandparents and what their role was now. Like I said, it was a really beautiful, beautiful day. I remember it was a rainy day and we went for about 4 hours. I think we generated 60 pages of transcript, which was a nightmare for those that have done any of that before. And then the last part I did, I actually looked at some families, ended up working with 3 families, and I did my own ethnographic study. So I spent some time with families, living not in their house, but visiting them, in their shoes, spending some time unpacking what they were doing, getting to know them, their family, their children, their kinship family, their grandparents, and their localities. And that's a bit of what we're going to talk about today. Yeah, one of the key significance for me was that it was about shaping, really starting to develop what are some of those key elements that help us identify what works for families to keep them out of child protection. I think the trajectory is better if you're not in the system, the trajectory is better if you're out of the system, and that's really what I was looking at for me. Just let me know, where am I supposed to point this? I've been pressing. Alright, I'll keep pressing. Just keep pressing, Gerald. Good. Right, so at the start, I don't know why I thought this, because it's not reflective of my childhood. I thought, well-functioning would be the absence of difficulties, where, I envisaged families were doing well and had no real problems. And that was just totally off the plan. I can't believe I actually went there to start with. What I found instead was, it was actually a genuine human response to the way families were dealing with their own history of trauma, right? Their own history of adverse situational effects that had happened to them from either childhood up until they were adults. Right? And so some of the 4 key areas I'm going to talk about today are Aboriginal ways of child rearing, child-centric parenting, the impact of culture or the importance of culture. I'm going to talk a bit about my methodology. I thought it brought something and enabled me to get an insight to families that was really quite helpful for me. And that's where we're going to go now. Green button, got it. I'm on it now. Well, I've got Hamilton up there. For those of you that have read it, Annette Hamilton wrote Nature Nurture. She did a study in Northern Territory. Fantastic read. Talks about children from zero, conception, before that, obviously, it can't be zero before that, all the way through to when they were teenagers and some of the characteristics. And that was part of my content analysis. The reason her name's up there is because she actually first coined the term Aboriginal ways of caring as a way of comparing it with European parenting. And that sort of got me starting to think about, okay, well, is there a difference? I think there is, but how can I capture that in a way that really elucidates what it is and actually gives it some really good clarity? So then we went, right, this, I'm going to put it out there now, this was probably one of the most fundamental key findings of my study, the role of grandparents and specifically grandmothers. Right, so I'll even highlight it again. There we go. Right, each of the families that I worked with actually had at least one grandmother there. So paternal or maternal, wasn't necessarily the same. They had a specific role. Parents themselves were mimicking the roles of their grandparents in how they enacted their parenting, which makes me start to think, and probably yourselves as well, okay, if they're mimicking roles the way their grandparents parented, then what is the impact of stolen generations if those grandparents were, forgive me, they were in missions or in dormitories or actually were removed and didn't have access to that parenting. So it starts to make a connection to me, like we need to be mindful of this or cognizant of it. Historically, 1913, they talked about grandparents as being authoritarian and really sort of ruling the roost. Depending on the family, it might be the same, I'm not sure, but the families I had, it wasn't. The grandparents weren't necessarily authoritarian, they're actually there for wisdom and support. If anything, they provided opportunities for families to have a break. There was one family that let me into their doors, into their home, which was really lovely. She had 6 children, 4 of them were under 4. And I'm thinking, I don't know how you do that. All right? And then grandmother would come each morning. So you're here to actually take the child to school? No, I'm here to look after the 4 that are staying here. Mum's taking the child to school, and then mum will come back, and then I'll go and do what I do, and then she did the same thing in the afternoon. So had this little flow of sharing the work that they were doing. And grandmother said, my role is to actually help her be the mother, help her be the parent. I'm not the parent, I've done my time, I'm not changing nappies, but I'll tell them, there's something in that nappy, you need to fix it. And she did, I was there. She said, yeah, this one's got a full nappy. I said, you don't do that? She said, no, I've done my time. She gave that away. Right. One of the things that the story that one of the families gave me was they got some advice from, they had some twins, they had twins, they were 12 weeks old. She'd come back from hospital. Health had given her some advice around feeding. So I was talking to her, and then the grandmother was there, and because grandmother sat in on this as well, and she was listening to the story. She said, Health told me to do this, and then grandma said, that's right, and then what do we do? She said, then you told me, you do that when you're with them, but when you're home with here, you'll do it our way. So the role of grandmothers is actually something that's really, really significant in that health and some services, they go child in the middle, we'll talk to the parents and hopefully they'll resolve the problem. Really what they need to be doing is going child in the middle, the parents are there. Actually, do we have all the players that are having some sort of influence? Do we have all of them involved? And bringing them in. That includes the kinship group and the community. Identifying who the truth speakers are, who are the key people that have substance, where the parent or the target client will listen to and actually probably do as they're told. Extended parenting, extended family, and multiple mothering. Some of the literature talks about multiple mothering. It didn't exist in the families that I had. All right, I asked them about it. I asked the mother specifically. I said, no, I'm the mother. No one else is the mother. If someone's going to feed the baby, I'm talking about nursing their baby. If someone's going to do it, it's going to be me. I'm not going to share that. The others are here to family support, to help me do what I need to do to be the best mother I can be. Resource sharing. This was another fascinating one. The elders said to me, can you imagine what it's like for a child to know that someone's going to help them for all of their life? That's why we try and teach them that sharing is a fundamental part of culture from day one. Right? And I saw this with pretty much all the families where you had an uncle turn up and say, look, I'm a bit shy of cash. And Mum said, here's my key card, go and help yourself. Please leave some in there for me because I need to get some food for the kids tomorrow. It wasn't like, take $100. It's like, yep, knowing that this is okay. I'm demonstrating that I can be depended upon so that you know that you can turn to me. And likewise, when I need you, I'm going to return the favour. So it was really an interesting thing to watch. Same thing happened with a car. One of the families had a broken down car. An aunt just gave them the car. You take this, we don't do that. There was no money changing hands. It's just, here we go. Get your kids to school. Do what you need to do. Firm belief in actually really developing strong kids. But strong kids was developed by letting them develop some mental toughness. All right, it's not about responding to every hurt or every scratch. It's actually about letting them sort some stuff out on their own. All right, the parents would go out when they were fearful or when they were deciding that someone's going to get really hurt. Then now I'll actually intervene. Sleeping, broken. I'll press it. I got it. It's unbroken. Carry on. Sleeping. All of the families they co-slept. Right? I know that we've got a Peppy Pod thing rolling out, which I get. It's also a part of my study. I did talk about it a little bit. It's the concept that co-sleeping exists and safe sleeping is important. It's just how do we make sure that we connect it with cultural ways of working. Annette Hamilton, 1980, 81. Right, she wrote about it. She saw families where they used the Coolamon. All right, that was their safe sleep space. So how do we actually connect with culture? It's not like we're actually trying to bring in a different way to make this a valid way of co-sleeping. Co-sleeping's existed in many cultural groups since the dawn of time. There were sleep routines. One during the day was very similar to what I read around all the things. It was when the child was tired, they just dropped and slept in a heap. It's like, look, I walked in one day and there were 3 kids lying around and I said, what's going on in there? I said, yeah, they were tired, they're having a sleep. I said, so what do you do with that? You put them awake? No, just leave them in there. If you wake them up, they're going to be awake. I don't want them awake. Right? When they woke up, they'd eat, but in the evening, it was much more structured routine. It was like, it was dinner, bath, bed. Done from that. And child play. I've got 20 minutes. I'll plan on 25, but I'll be really good. Right. Play was really fascinating to watch. I went to one of the houses and there were toys everywhere. Right? They were all broken. There were toys everywhere. And I'm looking at that going, that's okay. Don't think, don't judge, just walk in. Be interested to see what's going on here. We went outside with a little 3-year-old boy and he was playing with every single one of those toys. And one of the families, I was very lucky, I had both mum and dad at home. I was talking to dad. I said, so tell me about the toys. He says, they're broken, yeah, but my challenge for my boy is to figure out and think outside the box. He wants to play with them, so yeah, he was building stuff out of them. He was rolling down this hill with a skateboard that he made out of a skateboard and like a 3-wheel trike. And it was actually really quite fascinating to watch how he actually really developed his way at 3 years of age. How can I make these things work and treat them differently? So suspending judgment, being mindful that it's play focused. It's actually being outside, more outside play than inside play. Risky play, yes, definitely with that. All right, exploration, child-centric stuff. Again, back to environment. They really supported children being outside and engaging with their environment when they were home. every single one of my families, only 3, not a big study, but it still generated enough data. They were paranoid about what was going to happen when they were out in the community, that child safety would take their children. Even though they're doing things that were really well and really positive, I said, why are you so scared when you're doing things really well? I said, no, this is what we know. We know that our children can be taken. We've got that thing. So all of a sudden they become really protective when they're outside, but when they're at home in their own thing, 5 minutes, I'm running. Right. They'd actually keep going and actually make sure that their child was actually exploring outside. Right? And the children loved it. Yeah? Risk was all right. Emotions. Dad said to me, it was fascinating for those of you that have done circle of security and emotional availability. Dad said, you've got to let children get to the end of it. So there's no pushing children to feel okay, but he was all right to sit with these children and actually just relax with it. Right? Which was kind of nice. Circle of security to be with. You don't push a child to feel okay. Managing behaviours. Mum and dad. Dad was a disciplinarian, but mum was a bit lenient. But it's more like she's saying, you need to fix that. But the way Dad fixed it was he wasn't severe. He'd actually just get the child and steer the child back away from somewhere else. The child had a fistful of his hair. I remember what that was like one day. I used to have hair. And he just gently took the child's fingers out, didn't even say anything, and just coaxed the child along their way. So it's actually having a really relaxed way that they were doing it. And expectations. The expectation was that older children looked after younger children. Right? The expectation was also that if when younger children were upset, those older ones would bring them back to the parents so the parents could do the parenting. It wasn't parentification. It wasn't like, you're a young child, you look after, you parent your children. It was actually about making sure that you're taking your peer role seriously, which is actually engaging your younger ones, helping them develop their skills, but actually making them a part of the group as well. Culture. Every single one of them were really proud of their culture, which was a beautiful thing to watch. That's centred around language, right? And also the grandparent role. For my families, it was the grandfathers who were actually responsible for teaching culture. There are also some of the research as grandmothers, and it's not a definitive line on where it is. But all the families were really passionate about their children learning their culture, which actually centred also in language, which was a really interesting one because just give me a line, mate. I'm pressing it. There we go. Good, got it. Press the wrong button. Don't worry about it. It's 2 green buttons. Right. All of the children, their physical abilities, they were amazing. They could balance on a fence paling, all right? But their speech language was really delayed. And I said to the family, "Are you worried about that?" They said, "No, we're not worried about that." The family with 6 children. My 16-year-old, she's the dux of her grade. My 6-year-old is leading in English. I've got the other 4 that aren't speaking yet, but I'm not too worried about it. So again, the focus on traditional language as well. You've got to think, what's the impact of bilingualism if they're prioritising traditional language over English? They're excited about traditional language. They're saying the words. It's going to come at a cost, I think. So it's something to be mindful of. White button this time. One of the other messages is about being resilient. So tough environments require tough attitudes, tough kids. They know that our children are going to experience difference and racism from a very young age. So how do we actually create a method where it's okay for children to start testing that, developing that inner resilience and inner toughness? Right. Oops. How do I go back? Don't worry about it. I got it. Carry on. Right. The key focus here for me was, as a researcher, I'm a social worker and family support. I focused on being relational first. I was actually focusing on connecting with families before I started exploring on what was going on. That helped me actually spend some time really unpacking the aspects with families. I wanted to know, when I saw something, it's like, well, where'd you learn that? What do you hope your child gets from that happening with you? Who taught you that? I was really trying to get to the base of it, and it was a really nice flow, and it just developed a really beautiful information intimacy around sharing what we're doing. There was nothing for mum to come out and give me one of the twins, and I'm nursing one of the twins, feeding the twin while we're talking. Right. The use of being a participant observer, being really critical about how am I asking my questions, being really sensitive and aware that I'm going to ask someone a really challenging question about how they are parenting their child without putting them offside. That was a challenge. The focus was on strengths. Right. There were also difficulties. The difficulty was I was videoing families, and look, that was a mistake. I'll put it out there. I probably wasn't thinking clearly. Videoing our families around parenting when we've got such a huge issue with child protection probably didn't work so well. But these families did do it. wrapping up, what we need to do, we need to change the story. We say that so much of our families are experiencing overrepresentation in child protection. However, you look at the data, there's last year there were 3,760 children in out-of-home care, but there were 189,000 Indigenous community members in Queensland. So that's 2%. So it's not that thing. I think we paint a picture by the use of data and what we do. We need to be really clear about it. Change the stereotype. We are not bad parents. We are great parents. All right? I think there are some situations that have taken place that have impacted on maybe some families and how they do it, but then we need to look at informing our family support. Physical discipline. I think there is a link between stolen generation and history. We need to be mindful of that. We need to make sure we attach a multi-generational approach. Make sure we're actually involving the truth speakers. Whoever's part of that family systems approach, and we're doing it with our family-led decision making, make sure they're involved as well. Early learning, we'll talk about that in questions, there's something there as well. I can't help but think, have we really addressed the role of race in decision making? I haven't seen it. I actually think that it's a fundamental, it's something we do need to start having those challenging conversations, and it probably starts now. All right. This was what the dad told me a bit of a story. Right. He was late one day. He said, I couldn't get on the bus, I had no money. And he said, I got on the bus and the bus driver said, you can't get on because you've got no money. And he said, yeah, that's because I'm black. He said, no, you can't get on because you've got no money. He said, yeah, that's because I'm black, eh? All right. He was amazing, this dad. He was 21. This is like wise beyond his years, and it was just amazing. So, thank you very much.